All right. Tactical board. You want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, I want to talk
that?
about the midfield.
Talk about the midfield now that we've got Marinchuk.
So we don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about Marinchuk to really know. I mean, the thing about him is the thing about it signing Marinchuk, he was signed as an attacking midfielder, and people say he has a lot of talent, but his scoring record in Europe is not spectacular, right? He started for Atalanta, and they did really well. They won the Europa League, I think.
Yeah. His numbers look mid-range, so
he scored like 3 goals and he had more assists, maybe like 8 or something, whatever.
Set some numbers in the Champions League and the Europa League.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing other than just some numbers.
Yeah, nothing that really. Now that doesn't mean there have been players who have been, above average players in a really good league like Serie A and have come here and really lit it up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, an example of that might be like Robbie Keane, who was a very good player in the Premier League and was a superstar in the MLS. Yeah. Right. He was a 15-goal scorer, maybe 12, 13-goal scorer in the Premier League. And when he came to MLS, he was the leading scorer in the league. Yeah. So
that's also a league 16 years ago, though.
Yeah. But it can happen. You step down half a step or a quarter step or whatever it is, and you do a little better. So I'm not, on that, but it doesn't look like that is an automatic answer when you're just looking for goal contributions, for example. Okay. Yeah. So the thing that I want to talk about in particular, Valentino's flailing in the center midfield. Okay. So in this last game, actually, he started.
I guess Gregerson should be.
Yeah, I'll move that in a second. But so Gregerson is here, and it was him instead of Cobb. It's fine. But he had Dax McCarty. Marinchuk started on the bench, right? And he had where did Fortune go? Yes. He had Fortune in here. Okay, so I think Muyumba was hurt. That's what they said. So whatever. But so even if you have these 3 guys, right? So Dax McCarty at one point was a terrific defensive midfielder, right? He can really read the game, and he was an all, action guy, not fast, but he was all over the place. He's old now, right? So that doesn't mean he can still read the game and he can still contribute, but there is no way when he's in here, where he is here, he can't cover in these other spaces or whatever. He's mostly just good at reading in the middle. So if you're going to do that, right, then it should look like very defensive, but Sleaze should be on his own there because Sleaze is young and can cover all that, right? A double pivot when you have such a dichotomy, one guy who can really, really cover space like Sleaze can, and Dax McCarty, who used to be able to cover a lot of space and can't anymore, right?
But he can sit there in the middle, win it, recycle it, and not having to run around too much.
Right. I actually think on the road, I have no problem with playing Dax McCarty along with Sleaze and even Fortune. That's a very defensive center midfield. But Sleaze should have been given the role because there were a number of times where McCarty was here and Sleaze was like doing nothing because he couldn't be active on this weak side. And he wanted to come over here and make the play, but you can't do this. Yeah. Right. So I think a double pivot of those 2 players doesn't make any sense to me. A double pivot is so overused. It's so overused. Maybe if you're Barcelona, Pep Guardiola team, you can play a double pivot when the guys can totally read it. And neither of them were the most amazing defensive players, right? But all of them could really possess the ball, and that was mostly their role. And there was always a guy back, even the way that Manchester City is playing it now, where they play multiple players in the center peak, and there's always one guy who rotates in behind to sit. That's an equivalent of that, but that's a totally different system where you're on the front foot all the time or whatever. That's not us, right? So the idea that you have, 2 defensive midfielders is better than 1 is not true, right? It's only true if you have no guys who can defend. But if you've got a guy in Sleaze who can really read the game and defend, now it should be like this. Now, I would have said, okay, Fortune, who had a better game and he on the counter, we got on the ball and he did some decent stuff, right? But Fortune doesn't look to me still, despite all that and making some good decisions, he's not the guy you want delivering the killer pass, is he?
No.
maybe, but not. I mean, I would rather it be Saba doing
Saba,
that.
yeah.
So to me, it should be Saba in here as the free guy. So I would have played like almost like a stack, right? Sleaze is really in front of defensive midfield. McCarty is playing in front of him and always going. So Sleaze is always going ball side, and McCarty is going weak side, whatever it is. And Saba just has a free roll and is hardly defending at all, maybe double teaming, right? That's the way to go.
But you're
right?
also saying in this case, if you had it your way,
Yeah.
you would swap. Well, you take Tiare off the field and put Silva up front.
I would put Silva as the front
Take
striker.
Tiare off or put him on the right.
Yeah.
But you would probably put in like Mascara or something on the right.
So I think, knowing our new signing.
Oh, yeah, new signing for sure.
Would be here, right? And then on the, and I don't know who's going to be the best inverted. I'd have to think. I haven't seen enough of Marinchuk to know how 2-footed he is. He's left-footed, isn't he? I think he's left-footed. I'm pretty sure. So I would have him out here on wide on the left. And to me, Mascara, who looks great when he's on the right side and horrible inverted, I would have Mascara as the front third right there. And then I would probably normally play not McCarty. I would probably, you could use a Fortune, who's a more box-to-box player. Sleaze is playing here. So this, to me, would be our starting lineup. So these guys are frantically searching. I think he is left-footed.
Yeah, I can't see.
That would be my starting lineup. So for those of you who are not seeing it, if you're just listening on the podcast, it's Guzan in goal, Amador on the left, who we haven't talked about that much, Williams and Gregerson in the center defense. Although, honestly,
you like Cobb? Yeah.
Cobb and Gregerson is a better option. Lennon on the right. Sleaze at defensive midfield. In front of him, Saba and Fortune in a stacked kind of role where Saba is truly the free role. Fortune's playing sort of box to box, and Sleaze is really covering and defending. Defensive midfielder, always going ball side. Mascara on the right to give you the speed. Marinchuk with his, creativity and beat a guy, whatever. And Silva leading the line. That's a much better team.
This would be your starting lineup right now.
Yep.
Against Charlotte.
Correct. That's what I would start this weekend, Saturday night in Charlotte.
So is that if Muyumba is hurt or if he's like?
Well, I have no problem with this.
A Fortune for Muyumba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Muyumba for Fortune.
I think
Yeah.
that's a 50-50 call.
Or
Okay.
what do you think about McCarty in there as well? So you have kind of three options.
So I would have said McCarty is a great option. Like when we go to LA, when you're really going to be under the cushion, you really need that extra defending. Neither Muyumba nor Fortune defend like McCarty.
Okay.
So if we were in LA, it would be McCarty as this. But again, not in a double pivot, would be really in a.
Do you know enough about Charlotte's midfield to be confident on that?
Well, just look at where they are on the table.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I wouldn't go into Charlotte. So, like, if I were going into LA, I would go into basically try to sit in, counter them, and try to get the goal because knowing that you're going to be really under it, right? But that's not going to be true in Charlotte, right? If you go into Charlotte to take it at them and win, right? So that would be my team. So, and then if you have it, right? So I think you then have on that team, you have Rios coming in late for Silva as the forward who can score you a goal. I think Tiare in this system is actually better here for Mascara, right? You keep the pace at all times and you have another creative player out there, right? And Marinchuk as a designated player is going to play almost all the minutes, right? And Saba's got the free role. Why not let Saba, get close and combine with Marinchuk, see if Silva can get on the end of it. That to me is a team I like.
It's not bad.
I didn't hate Valentino's lineup, I should say, but it wasn't the best. And the thing that I didn't like the most about it is that it was he got most of the talent right. Like he didn't play Rios, he played Tiare instead of him. He got it mostly right, and he was not like Pineda unwilling to play three defensive players in the midfield. He played McCarty and he played Fortune and he played Sleaze all together. I like that. Also, we've been talking about that, especially on the road against good teams. So all of that is good. right? I just didn't like that he's not creative enough to make some, differences about who might play where. Saba has to be a winger.